Hello and welcome to Cycling Weekly's Facebook Live preview of Paris-Roubaix. I'm Oliver Bridgewood and I'm joined by James Shrubsall, who is our features editor, and he's also making his video debut.
Told you not to say that, Oliver.
Yes, this is Facebook Live, so please send in your questions to do with the race and we'll endeavour to answer them. And also, we want to know who you think is going to win on Sunday and why. So, the Queen of the Classics, it's the 115th edition on Sunday, the Hell of the North.
Absolutely.
James, let's before we get on to before we get on to this year's edition, let's have a recap of what went down last year.
Last year, yeah, well, it was the typically kind of chaotic Roubaix. Early break went, early doors, and then of course got to the Arenberg Trench, 100 miles, 160k, you know, the typical point where stuff starts to happen. There was a big crash and the bunch split. In the back group you got the favourites, Sagan, Cancellara, they were caught behind, and Boonen was up ahead with Stannard and Bosenhagen.
Luke Rowe.
Yeah, that's right. And Boonen put his teammate Tony Martin on the front, who, great time trialist, did loads of big turns, pulled that bunch clear. Onwards to the finish, it got smaller and smaller and smaller. You know, it's such a race of attrition, Roubaix.
Yeah.
And eventually caught the early break. Matt Hayman was in that. All came together, a few more attacks, got to the Roubaix Velodrome. Hayman outsprints Boonen.
Yeah, it was pretty phenomenal. I was in the Velodrome as well, and it was pretty incredible when that happened at the end. It was just amazing to see that the last small group just attacking each other and Hayman clinging on. And
yeah, I mean, for a time it looked like it could go either way. Boonen and Hayman, Boonen, Hayman, and but Hayman got the last laugh, and I mean that was fantastic for him. Not so good for Boonen because obviously not so many bites at the cherry anymore. This is his last year.
Yeah, so it could be a fairy tale ending for Boonen. But
it could be.
Yeah. I've got some cool stats as well. I had a look on because Matthew Hayman actually released his power files for his ride last year, and so he averaged about 300 watts for 6 hours for the whole ride. But then, crucially, the last 20 seconds in the Roubaix Velodrome, where he outsprinted Boonen and Stannard and the rest of them, he averaged 935 watts for 20 seconds after all that, after 235 kilometres.
He wanted that win, didn't he? He really wanted that win.
Absolute beast.
Yeah.
That's
thoroughly incredible
deserved.
After that distance.
Yeah. So it was a great edition last year. So looking forward to Sunday's race. Who are the favourites?
Well, I mean, you've got the obvious guys really. Peter Sagan, he's looking really good. Greg Van Avermaet, another guy who's winning classics this season. It's hard to see past those two, but then you've got people like Terpstra. He won a couple of years ago. Degenkolb's back in the mix. He'll be looking to get a second win too. Christoph as well. You've got a number of riders really. All of those guys are capable of winning.
Yeah.
See, all the talk at the moment is about Sagan, Van Avermaet, and yes, they could do really well in this race. But it's a really chaotic, unpredictable race.
And there's four previous winners taking to the start line. So
yeah, and of course, neglected to mention Boonen.
Yeah.
This is his last Paris-Roubaix. He wants this so badly. This is not only his last Paris-Roubaix, this is his last race. He's going to retire at the end of this race. And if he won on Sunday, that would make him the record winner of Paris-Roubaix with 5 wins. And I don't think he's necessarily going for it because of that record, but obviously it adds a little bit of je ne sais quoi for him. But I mean, he loves this race.
He wants it. Yeah, he's currently tied on 4 wins with Roger de Vlaeminck.
That's right. Yeah, who is called Mr. Paris-Roubaix in colloquial terms. But perhaps if Boonen won on Sunday, he'd become the new Mr. Paris-Roubaix.
The other amazing thing about if Boonham manages to get a 5th win, and he really does deserve a fairy tale ending if anyone does, but is the fact that he's Belgian, and you can't until you've sort of been to the race and been there and watched it, you can't really appreciate what a big deal that is, because it's about.
It means so much to those guys.
But cycling is pretty much the #1 sport in Belgium. I think it is, and it's sort of tied with football. It's much more popular as a spectator sport than it is here. And
totally.
There's usually they calculate about 1 million people spectate Roubaix just on the roads, as live as an event there.
Yeah. And
most of those people are going to be rooting for Boonham to the point where, and Sepp van Mark as well, and some other Belgians. But anyway,
there'll probably be a few French fans as well. But
it just means the atmosphere.
Are going to be,
the atmosphere if Boonham wins will be absolutely phenomenal. And that's another thing. Yeah,
I think so. I mean, the other thing with Boonham is that he's ending his career. He's 36 years old. The first time he won this, you're going back 12 years. I mean, to bookend his career like that would just be phenomenal for him.
Yeah.
He's given us so much over the years. It'd be lovely to see.
So I've got a stat here, which is that the number of people from different nations that have sort of won Roubaix. So riders from 11 nations have won Roubaix, but no Brit and no American has ever won Roubaix. So hopefully we'll beat the Americans and have a first British rider. But considering that, what are the British chances looking like for this year's edition?
I think the British chances are probably looking as good, if not better than ever. I mean, you got at Team Sky, you got 2 really talented, really driven guys in Ian Stannard and Luke Rowe. Rowe didn't have such a good ride last weekend. I mean, he was looking good. He was in the front group, but then he crashed behind Van Mark, and that put him out of contention, really. Stannard was kind of in the back group.
Should we be worried about that Stannard hasn't really been to the forefront in the previous classics?
I think Sky in general haven't been having their best classic season so far.
I did win Milan San Remo and Strada Bianchi.
That's true, but yes, they've got a couple of good results. But at the same time, for those guys,
in the northern classics,
in the kind of when it comes to these smaller classics, they've kind of not really been anywhere. And I know Stannard and Rowe they really are determined to kind of make amends and get something. Stannard loves Roubaix. He loves it. He's suited to it. He came 3rd last year. I mean, there's no reason that he can't do that again or even go better.
And this course, the parkour, is a lot flatter at Roubaix, and it does tend to suit Stannard a lot more than
it does.
Flanders, I think. So.
Yeah, he's a bigger guy. It is flat. It's made for those powerful riders like Stannard.
Yeah. And they've got a trick up their sleeve as well, because we posted a story yesterday evening, but Sky have got a new suspension system on their bike, which is a new Pinarello K8 with the little dampener on the back, but they've modified it with and made it electronic with high rise, so that it sort of locks out when you're on a smooth road, but when you get onto the cobbles, it starts giving you all the travel. So
perfect. No need to even reach down and flick a switch.
Yeah, I mean, with that, how can they lose?
Well, you talk about suspension. I mean, that is kind of, there's a few guys have got that kind of thing, a few bit of damping on their bikes this year, isn't there?
Yeah.
I mean, Sagan's bike's looking quite trick as well. He's got sort of damping front and back. So he's basically got no excuses.
The bike brands really get behind Roubaix, and they seem to all be. There seems to be a real marketing race to give all the star riders the coolest bike. But I'm all for it, because Sagan's bike looks incredible.
Yeah.
Let us know who you think's got the nicest bike, because my vote goes to Sagan. But let us know what you think as well. It'd be cool to see. But I've got a question here from Jason Pryor, who is asking, what are your thoughts on cycling on the edge of the cobbles? Do you think it's putting spectators at risk as much as the cyclists? So I think he's referring there to sort of well, what happened in Flanders as much as anything.
Yeah.
But it has been happening more and more. We have been seeing the riders trying to avoid the cobbles and riding in the smoother gutters.
Yeah.
So.
And you can understand why they do that. I mean, riding on smooth tarmac instead of riding on cobbles gives you such a power advantage. I mean, you just get more watts going through the back wheel onto the road. So, but obviously,
you've ridden on cobbles as well. So.
I have, yeah. I've ridden those cobbles, and they are horrible. The riders make it look very easy on TV when you see them pounding along at sort of 25 miles an hour. It's next to impossible the first time you get on and try and ride. So kudos to them. But all the same, they're going to want to try and save those watts if they can. So you can see why they try and ride at the edge of the road. But it has to be balanced with a thought for safety, a thought for crowd safety. I think probably each individual situation has to be taken on its own merit.
Yeah, I think, well, this isn't a new thing either, actually, because I recall when Cancellara last won the race, Zdeněk Stybar was looking incredibly strong and got taken out by a photographer. Well, I think it was a member of the public who had a camera, but he got taken out by a camera as they were riding on the edge on one of the, I think it was the Carrefour de l'Arbre.
Yeah. And it works both ways as well. I mean, we've seen a lot in, say, the bigger Grand Tours. You can see crowds encroaching on the road. They make it sometimes practically impossible for the riders to pass. And, obviously people want to see, they want to get the shot, they're holding the camera out. I mean, the crowds as well have to have a thought for the riders as well as the riders having a thought for the crowds.
Selfie sticks.
Yeah, no selfie sticks at Roubaix, please.
Stephen Smith is asking, what are the chances of a Luke Rowe win?
Good question. I mean, as I say, he'll be wanting to make amends after Flanders last week. He was looking very strong. I think, by and large, Sky are probably going to be behind a Stannard. But both those guys, they're capable of doing really well in Roubaix. A win for Rowe, bit of a stretch, but not impossible.
I mean, both of them were incredibly strong last year. I think the problem is when we look at how Roubaix is often won, if we look at the last 10 editions, you're looking at very small groups of 7 or less, or a lone winner. I mean, how many times has there been a solo in the last 10 editions?
Yeah, well, I think we worked out there's 6 solos, wasn't there, in the last 10 editions. So solos are a popular way of winning, and
that I mean, because the reason why, what I'm getting to with Steve Smith's question is that Luke Rowe, for me, he has to win solo because he's not got a good sprint compared to a lot of the other guys. So he can only win in that way. Whereas then you've got this other group of riders, such as Christoph, Degenkolb, Sagan, Bonen, who can all win from a sprint in a small group, but they can also all win solo, as they all have proven in the past. So
yeah,
you kind of...
It's so useful in Roubaix to have that ability, but at the same time it's such a long race. After 260 kilometres, everybody's cooked. To a certain extent, sprinting ability goes out the window, and it's just how much you want to get to that line and be first. And also, we have seen Van Avermaet out-sprint Sagan this season. I mean, he's not to be dismissed either. But yeah, it is useful to have that sprinting ability, no doubt about it.
Okay.
Often comes down to a small group.
We've got another question, and you're going to have to actually, please forgive me if I pronounce your name wrong, but I'm going to try my best. Okay, so I've got a question from Leszek Zajtkiewicz. I'm going to go for. I hope that's okay. Sorry. And he's asking, what is your tip for a Bosenhagen win?
Outsider, yeah, definitely.
He was in the selection last year.
Yeah, I mean he's done well in the past. He's never won one of these big northern monuments, but he's won West France, hasn't he? And I think one of some of the smaller classics. Not impossible. I mean, he's a talented rider. It suits him to a certain extent, this course, And there is, I think, as we've said already, it's such a chaotic, unpredictable race. There's a lot of people that can be in the mix there at the end.
I'd love to see an Eddie Boss win.
Yeah.
Got a lot of time for Eddie Boss.
Yeah. He's knocking on the door. He's always knocking on the door. Be nice to see him do something big.
So which sector of cobbles do you think is going to be the most decisive in the race this year?
Well, I think as ever we'll see the Arenberg Trench that will force some kind of split or move. It's traditional place, 160 Ks. That's when things start to happen.
It's also, the other thing is with the Arenberg Trench. For people who haven't ever been there, because I've ridden on it as well, the route comes in and it's like a 90-degree right-hander onto it, isn't it? So it's like it's a pretty tight. There's a massive fight for position onto it.
You'll find. You've seen the lead-outs in the Tour de France where they all kind of get in line and they sprint for basically like the domestiques are sprinting to help the sprinters sprint. That's what it's like at Roubaix when it comes to the Arenberg. Not only that sector of cobbles, but at the Arenberg, everybody wants to be there first. They don't want to get left in that sort of second split, because once the race splits there, as we saw last year, great riders like Cancellara, Sagan, out the running immediately.
I've got another question from Carl Franklin, who is asking Dylan van Baarle. Does he have a chance after Finney and Sepp van Mark have withdrawn? So Dylan van Baarle, their teammate at Cannondale Drapac, and he's asking, do we think that he's got a chance?
Well, Cannondale have obviously had a bit of a nightmare with their, arguably their two top riders, particularly Van Mark, out injured.
It's good though, because with Finney out, that means that's a big dent in the hopes of an American win happening before a British win. So,
true.
Yes.
Van Baarle, he was really good at Flanders. So there's no reason. I think he could be in the mix at Roubaix. But, he's obviously quite an outsider. But whether he'll win, it's unlikely. But we could see him up there.
So. Your predictions, James. If you were placing your money on who you think is going to win, who are you going for?
Well,
and why?
Yeah, he's not the outright favourite. First of all, I'll just say that I'd actually really like to see Boonen win.
Yeah,
be a lovely send off. But I think my prediction for a win is going to be Greg Van Avermaet.
Right.
He's looking really strong this season, really strong. He's had a great couple of years. His last year was brilliant for him. I think he can win a sprint from a small group, and I think he's strong enough to get away on his own. This race suits him. He's a great rouleur. He's my tip.
You're going for Van Avermaet. I also would like to see a Boonen win. I think it'd just be so amazing for your last race and to win Paris-Roubaix.
What a way to go out it would be.
However, I too don't think that he's going to be the winner. I think he'll be up there, but I don't think he'll be the winner.
Yeah.
And I should point out as well, I'm hoping to be on a roll, because in the Flanders preview I predicted Gilbert. Right, it's up there. Nice. It's on Facebook.
Okay.
And
no one can take it away from you.
I'm basically the Oracle from the Matrix. So. I'm going with.
We should go with this.
This is it. I'm going with Alexander Kristoff.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's method behind this thought, right? So, firstly, Kristoff has got Tony Martin, who proved himself last year to be a phenomenal, and he won the cobbled stage of the Tour de France as well. Tony Martin is a phenomenal domestique to have. Yeah. But also, Kristoff has done well on this race before. He's done well in the lead-up races, being a bigger rider.
He's been going very well this season.
The flatter parcours of Roubaix suits him on paper better than Flanders, a race which he's won. And also, he's been doing very well recently. Now he's not like, say, in Flanders and San Remo, he didn't win, and he wasn't in that lead group of sort of 3 or 4 or whatever it's been. But when the bunches come in, he's won the sprint pretty much every time. He's been the best of the rest.
Yeah.
So as long as he's there at the end, I think he'll win a sprint. And crucially, he's been out sprinting John Degenkolb as well. So although the odds are shorter on John Degenkolb, they're wrong. Christoph.
Fair enough. I can see where you're coming from then. Yeah. He's a great sprinter.
He's basically
if he gets to the end in a small group, he'll probably take it.
Yeah, he's basically a Viking on a bike as well. I mean, who would bet against that? So, yeah, Christoph's my pick. The other thing we should point out is, the race is on Sunday, and it starts on Eurosport at 9:45 in the morning, which is quite unusual, because normally
showing the whole lot.
They're showing the whole lot. It finishes at 1600, which is 4 o'clock. But the great thing about Roubaix is that the early part of the race can often be crucial, can't it? So
it can be, yeah. I mean, it's a war of attrition that starts from the very start. I mean, last year the early break went, it was pretty early on, and Heyman was in it, and Heyman won.
There you go. You wouldn't want to miss that. But it's a phenomenal race. The great thing is you can watch it all on Eurosport on Sunday. So
look forward to it.
If you're looking to tune in. But that's everything for this live Facebook hangout. So until next time, thanks for watching.
Thank you.